Hello, good morning.
Hi, welcome.
Not a great way to start a video, but we're going to start with what so we started a conversation about the mind traps that keep us in scarcity or what can be abundance. So why don't we open with let's open with choice.
Mm, okay.
Choice. Yeah.
Well, I think, that can be a very loaded word, especially in the kind of climate that we live in. You
Mm,
know, this hyper autonomous mindset that's also kind of juxtaposed against this conform and comply kind of mindset.
right.
You know, the idea to be so radically different that it doesn't matter who it hurts. And I think that while we should celebrate our uniqueness, sometimes our choices affect other people.
Hmm.
And we have opportunity at every choice point to decide what's going to be the best for everyone. And I never think that it's just two choices. I think that's kind of a silly way to look at the world. I think there's many different angles to perceive things. So there's many different choices available in any circumstance. But a lot of times when we're in the moment, we get kind of bogged down by that and we're limited by our choices.
Do you think that people believe they have choice?
Some do, some don't.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of a matter of which end of the spectrum they're on. Are they hyper autonomous? Are they, so concerned with their unique identity, or are they seeking to conform and comply? It depends on that mindset first before they can determine whether or not they believe they have choice. And I think it can be individualized per topic. So I may
Mm,
have a choice in some areas of my life, but not in others.
yeah.
Right. And some of that is factored into our relationships. We have or we should have an awareness that our choices affect other people and likewise their choices affect us. So we kind of have to navigate whether we do or don't have choice in a particular area. But ultimately there's certain choices that I can't make without first considering the other people in my life.
Tempered with a balance to avoid um, people pleasing or acquiescing um, when putting another person ahead of ourselves or another situation ahead of ourselves puts us in a place of sacrifice, danger, um, maybe, and there's lots of different. There's probably lots of different considerations in the course of it, but if you're an individual who's in a situation where all you see is there aren't any choices, I have to stay on this pathway, um, then your choices are going to be within a narrow band.
Mhm.
The reality of the universe is that there isn't any narrow band. It's as broad as you can imagine, as broad as the bright blue sky. But when in a place of fear, um, we talk about scarcity as it relates to money, but I think scarcity applies to, or a belief of scarcity applies to just about anything. People in our lives, help, resources, sleep, rest. Um, it can show up in lots of different ways. And the more scarce someone believes their life is, the more they will create that scarcity by not looking. I mean, sometimes it's a matter of just looking. I think that the only place I can shop is Walmart, even though there are 10 other stores in town. That's the only one I know. I know where everything is. I know I can go in, get what I need, and come out. I don't have to look around. I don't have to ask anybody, whatever. That is an example of a scarcity mindset. And you might go in there and you go, yeah, I really wanted a blue shirt today, but they don't have the blue shirt that I want. We give up versus, I think I'll go to TJ Maxx. Like there's one that's the other side of town. It's only 2 miles away. I can pop in there. Maybe they have a blue shirt in there that I want. That is an example of seeing abundance, seeing opportunity, seeing choice, versus very narrow band. And I tend to find men like this whole idea of I can go in and get what I want. That's it. I don't know what, like my husband has 4 colors in his wardrobe.
Mhm.
I believe that that is a partially a manifestation of his belief that lots of things in his life are not his choice. When in fact he has an abundance of choices, an abundance of options. We are seeing this play out in how, and I think this also, I think we're seeing this play out in whether or not somebody believes that their life is influenced by outside forces or their own internal self as well. So if you believe that the president, the economy, the mayor, your boss, the principal of the school, the teacher, whoever, if you believe that they are the ones in charge of what's going on with you, you will sacrifice choice in deference to their opinions and their beliefs. Even if you go, I don't really want to do that,
Mhm.
but you might do it anyway. And it is not easy to express a differing opinion or go against systems that are so narrow in their focus. When I changed the kids' lifestyle and I said, okay, no fast food, no soda pop, I included soda pop because we had East Coasters and we got Midwesterners here. So,
Mhm.
um, I, and so, but every single function in the school included pop. There were
Mhm.
2 leaders in the fourth grade classroom, which these kids sucking down Pepsi. And I finally said to the teacher, I said, how are those kids after this happened? She's like, oh, they're crazy. And I said, so why do you bring it into the classroom? Well, the school says it's okay, and I don't want the kids to be upset because their friends had pop and they didn't have pop. And I said, then are you doing what's best for the kids or are you doing what's best for you? What's easiest for you? She wouldn't fight it, so I went to the principal, which of course got me a lot of here comes Julianna again. But I didn't care because it was important enough for me to say, that's not good enough. That's not good enough for our kids. But I
Mhm.
didn't see a limitation to that. I didn't see a limitation at all. And we see that in illness too, disease, sickness. I have to go to my doctor. And if my doctor doesn't have an answer, there aren't any answers.
Yeah.
It's not
Or
true.
or it's the opposite. No, I got to go see another doctor and this specialist and that specialist and get this test and that surgery. And oh my gosh, I see it
Yes.
all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
People give
When
their
in fact,
authority away.
there's a plethora of options. We were talking. I'm in this fibromyalgia group, and I'm in there in part to contribute and to learn,
Mhm.
also. And it's interesting because when I first started this group, they were heavily pharma focused. I'm seeing, and myself and a couple of other people have been plopping in like maybe you should try magnesium and arnica. And at first there was a lot of like, what are you to tell me what to do? I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just offering the opportunity because the complaint is the pain management people they've run out of options for me. There's nothing I can do. I'm still in a lot of pain. And I'm here saying there are some options you don't know about yet, and they don't require a prescription.
Yeah.
Well, only doctors know. Actually, no, that's not the case. Not the
They
case
know
at
how to
all.
prescribe.
Doctors live in a very narrow band.
Yeah.
And so there is starting to be this opening, but until they hear arnica or they hear magnesium biglycinate or they hear acai or peptides or whatever, they don't even know
Mhm.
that there's another option out there. More another version of scarcity. So we apply the scarcity to every part of our lives. And the question I asked my client the other day is I said, I want you to do me a favor. Go out and I want you to tell me how many blades of grass there are in your yard. She goes, more than I could count. And I said, there's an example of the abundance of the universe.
Hmm.
As many blades of grass as you can see are options available to you.
Mhm. Yeah. It
Perspective.
fits it fits so nicely with what we're going to be doing in foundations today, and just kind of this idea of having this tapestry of threads, different threads that you could pull to go different ways, and you have this whole big tapestry to experience. You're just one little thread, but you can weave your way through, and you can
Yeah.
find kind of like I don't know if you've ever seen that series Loki, but it follows like the Marvel character Loki. No.
Yeah.
And
Logical. Yeah.
all of the different
Thor's brother.
timelines. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But the way the timelines weave together and how they can intersect or diverge, I think people do greatly limit themselves. And it's interesting because as you were talking, I easily relate to the people pleasing and the sacrificing kind of dynamic. I'm willing to like lay down everything to help somebody else out or make the decision that's going to be best for everyone instead of what's best for me. But the thing is, I see the abundance of options.
Yeah.
But I allow that limitation of, well, if I do this, then it's going to hurt this person, or it's going to do that, or and it's usually it's usually a overthinking and also people pleasing and sacrifice.
Mm.
So sometimes it's not that serious. And I just need to just make the decision that I know in my heart is best.
Yeah.
Because being someone who has like a splenic authority, I get that yes instantly. But then if I don't listen, it's gone. It's not coming back to reaffirm whether it was true or not. So I have to
Right.
go and gut. And every time I don't, I have this adverse effect and I can
Mm.
feel it in my physical body. Well, what happens with that then is that becomes a part of my physical experience. It's now
Mm.
allowing itself to be trapped if I'm not, wait a minute, no, 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 scratch that. Let's do this.
Right.
So I keep going against the grain. I keep going in resistance to my intuition.
Mm.
And the universe keeps pivoting me because it's like brick wall, turn around. But that's what happens when we limit ourselves in a different way. So for me, the mind trap there is wondering if it's going to upset anyone else.
Mm.
And that's a hard thing because how do you live in oneness with everything and everyone, but also not be worried about what's going to hurt or harm someone? Or is it the act of actually worrying about whether it's going to hurt or harm them that hurts or harms them, but not the act itself?
Mhm. Well, that opens up an interesting segue into a conversation about the concept of free will and, is it fate, destiny, whatever, is it predetermined? Um, I tend to believe that we have threads of opportunity, timelines of opportunity is another way that people put it, and that the timelines will shift a little bit. So if you watch Doctor Strange, they always talk about if you make this change in one dimension, it can ripple through all the dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to believe that. That's just my personal thing, right? So if I were to if I feel strongly that this is a no, and in my head, it's going to make this person upset and that person upset, and this person won't get something that they want, okay, then if I strongly feel that it's a no, I need to hold to that no because my guidance is saying no. And that for those other three people, there may be a lesson or a different opportunity coming that if I force myself out of my no and into yes, just to placate, then am I impacting their opportunity to have their experience or learn their lessons? I also believe that it'll come around eventually. So I don't hold a lot of credence one way or the other in that, let's just say it's something simple. Like the boys are, the guys are going to head to do something and they're like, Mom, come with us. And well, I'm not eating ice cream. I'm on a low sugar diet at the moment. Mom, let's go get ice cream. Well, I know Liam loves to go get ice cream. He wants us to go as a family. I know that I don't want ice cream. And I will then make a decision. Am I going to ride with you? I'll just stay in the car. I'll wait for you guys to get your ice cream so that I can enjoy time with you. Or do I really just want you to go get ice cream and I'll have some quiet time? It can be okay either way. Like that's not impactful. Now there are other big decisions, obviously, that are different. If you're moving states or something like that, that's a different discussion. But simple things, um, is there a wrong answer? I think that for me, the wrong answer is the one that causes me to truly sacrifice what's most important for me. Um, and to deny somebody an opportunity for their own experience.
Mhm. Well, and that kind of speaks to the idea of if you constantly come to the rescue of someone or thwart something that was coming their way, are you just interrupting their karma? And ultimately, they're still going to have to keep going back through that until you quit interrupting their karma. You quit
Right.
interrupting their lessons.
Yep.
And that's kind of a sobering thought for someone like me who really does just want to help people. And I
Yeah.
see the things that are going wrong in people's lives, and I'm like, hey, I know a way that could make that better. Whether or not they take it is a different matter entirely, but just the fact that I want to make things better for people could be interrupting other people's karma. And as I so through the course of the last few weeks, I've kind of sat with the idea of, okay, well, what if I started helping myself and loving myself and pouring into myself as much as I have done for everyone else all these years
Right.
who was ungrateful for it and didn't really want it?
Yeah.
Wow. How
Mm,
much more, like, because I know the love that I pour into other people, whether they know it or not. I know, like, how invested my heart is in helping someone in whatever they need help with, whether it's helping them move or whether it's helping them grow as a human being, go through their coaching process, heal their traumas. Like, it doesn't really matter. What matters to me is, did I make a difference in their lives? But I notice that I'm often very miserable myself. I
mm,
love helping people, but it
right.
always comes at the cost of myself. I will always sacrifice my time, my energy, my
Mm,
effort, my attention, my dreams, my vision, everything to help someone else. And now I'm sitting here empty and I don't
yeah.
have anyone else to blame but
Right.
me
Yeah. Right.
because of the fact that I had the mind trap that everyone else needed help. Because I look at it this way, if I need help, I would like someone to be there to help me. But what I have found is I'm too busy helping other people. I can't even help myself. So then no one else is here to help me either.
But that in and of itself is an element of scarcity mindset because as an example, someone says, "Hey, I'm setting up a birthday party. Can you come over and set this up with me?" And you say, "Well, actually, I had this preset appointment. I can't change it because it takes 2 months or whatever, da 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 da. So I will be there as soon as I can, but no, I can't show up at 11. I can be there at 12:30 or whatever the case may be."
Mhm.
We also have to trust that in an abundant universe that the solution will come through. So the solution can look like many, many different things. It can look like someone else calls them and says, "Hey, do you need some help? I got a little extra time." So they get their help from somewhere else. It could also look like that person, and I had this experience with a client just last week. She's normally I'm going to make a list a mile long and I'm going to work until I die literally to get this list done because I have to achieve this list, right? And then they end up like in this case, it was her graduation party for one of her kids. And she got to the point, she prioritized her list. She said, "These have to be done. These are optional and would be nice." She got to the done with the prioritization. She had only an hour till the party started. She hadn't even showered yet, right? And then she thought to herself, is anyone going to know if I don't do the rest of these items? Is the party going to be impacted? Will they be, will they hate the party and it'll be terrible? Like she went through this mental conversation for about 30 seconds. And then she went, "You know what? I'm going to take a shower." She asked the person who was working with her to finish up a couple of things. She went and showered, she got dressed, she sat down, she finished up some photos. People started to show up, and she enjoyed the party.
Mm,
No one noticed the difference. Of the six other things she didn't get done because nobody even knew that they were on the list. So she did what she loved to do. She did what she knew she had to do, and then she enjoyed herself. And it was all okay. The universe provided an amazing party and a good time for her daughter, and that's it.
mm,
So those are that by definition to me is a bit of abundance.
mhm.
Anytime you can enjoy it, anytime you can rest and get into it and have peace with it, that to me is a type of abundance.
Mm,
Yeah. Yeah. And it comes from, we go back to that people pleasing, right? Yeah. Or a nervous system that is dysregulated because maybe you got yelled at if you didn't get everything done in time. Yeah. Right.
Yep, yep, that's me.
Mhm. And the
Yeah,
curious thing is we go into procrastination as young people, I think, because fundamentally we know that this is useless and pointless, but we also then tout the authority of our parents because we're told to, regardless of their whether or not it's important or not, truly important.
yeah, yeah. And that's been a hard thing as a parent to navigate with my own children because I have to be aware enough of them and their emotional or physical or mental needs at the moment too. Because while I
Right.
would like the dishes done in a timely fashion every single night, as per our agreement, like
Yeah.
it's also sometimes they're not feeling good. Sometimes they're
Yeah.
tired. Sometimes they need a break. And who am I to say no when sometimes I'm tired and I'm not feeling good and I need a break, you know?
Right.
If I
Right.
can't give them the same grace, but I find that I tend to be a lot more stingy with my grace if I haven't given myself enough grace either. So
Yeah.
that's the hill that I'm gonna have to die on. Like I'm gonna have to be, fully gracious to my own self first. And slowly I've been doing it. And I still have this bit of like shame or guilt, I guess, for not doing enough in a day. But like yesterday, I was in so much pain that all I could think to do was lie down. I
Hmm.
just needed to lie down. And that's all I could do. It worked. It helped. It gave me relief and I needed to just rest in that and be okay with that. The stuff that
Yeah.
needed to be done was still going to be there.
And did your world stop spinning?
um I don't know because I fell asleep. But when I woke up, the world carried on. So it must have been just fine without me needing to have control of the reins for a couple of hours.
Well, and we pushed through it, right? I was a push through it for so many years. And where you end up at is I'm going to use productivity as a measure,
Mhm.
right? If you were to say you work for an hour on a project and then you didn't eat lunch, you haven't taken care of yourself, you didn't get enough sleep the night before, whatever the case may be. Working on a project for an hour and all of a sudden this extreme fatigue overcomes you and you push through it.
Mhm.
What you get done in that next period of time is operating at probably 50%,
If that.
and the quality will be poor.
Mhm.
The quality of what you output will be poor. Versus if you train yourself to do a 20-minute power recharge or, just sit out on your front porch and rock and, sit in your chair, look at the grass for 15 or 20 minutes. It does not have to be a long period of time for the most part. Some days it does, but most of the time it's 15 or 20 minutes. And then you come back refreshed, you're hydrated, you ate some food, your body's had a little bit of like your nervous system's calmed, you've brought all that energy out of your head and into your body a little more. And then you can come back and go, oh yeah, I'm ready. And then the next hour is very productive and the quality of what you output is better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have to recognize that it is the abundance, again, to come back to this idea of scarcity of abundance. You may have a scarcity of quality and effectivity, um, or you can take the opportunities to listen to your body and have an abundance of output.
I used to be the kind of person who would put it off until the last possible minute and
Mm,
then, rack my brain and stay up all hours of the night to get it done, whatever it was. And it was so stressful and so exhausting. I could output quality, but I would need like 2 weeks to recover from the sheer anxiety of all of it.
yeah,
So I've had to put systems in place for my energy levels because as someone, so in human design, I'm a projector, and projectors tend to have a limited amount of energy in the day before they're like, okay, I need a nap.
yeah.
Naps can sometimes recharge though. So like take advantage of that. But um being able to be measured with my energy and use practices in the spaces of those rest times that will recharge me and give me more energy is something that I've had to learn because I'm not a generator. I can't just keep going, 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 going. I know people who can just run through their day all day long and get 9 million things done. I'm over here struggling to get 4 things done, and I have a list a mile long, you know. But if I build in practices of self care, if I build in opportunities for that abundance and that expansion within my nervous system calming, and then my spirit being able to kind of stretch out a little bit, okay, let's get rid of some of this tension and let's move and breathe and be, then I'm able to push through and get more done than if I were just trying to muscle through all day. And 50% is a stretch for me. I was working last night on about 3%, and I had finally looked at what I was working on. I was like, I have to put this down and finish this in the morning because I
Right.
can't think anymore.
I hear you. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, that goes to the idea that what we have to work hard and strain and stress to accomplish.
Mhm.
I think too that there is an element of procrastination related to being concerned about validating your outcome. And what I mean by that is, so I come from a household that praised on performance, but I was always, and a lot of this is internal, some of it not internal, some of it came from external influences. Um, I always figured I was going to screw it up. And I sure manifested that in some cases. Right. But I think that the procrastination in part is that at the end of it, there's a grade, right? Whether that grade is mom says yes or no, or that grade is teacher gives you an A or a C, or boss gives you, you did a good job or you didn't do a good job. Here's your performance review, whatever the case may be. There's that fear of what's going to look like on the tail end. And we have been so conditioned to operate on dopamine
Mhm.
and on being on a high that we got bright lights, so we got caffeine, we got loud music in the background, and we're gonna go. And like we drive the cortisol and we move into it. And then we get done and we're like, yeah, I got it done. And then we wait. Was I good? Was I not good? The challenge there is that for everything you do, you're going to have X number of people who love it and a certain number of people who don't love it, and that's the nature of it. But we measure our worth based on how we do.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, and that's another thing I've kind of come to lately is that a lot of people are acting out of performance.
Mm.
And I'm guilty of of this with family, I think, more than
Oh,
anything
yeah,
else. Uh,
absolutely.
you know, being who they want you to be so that you keep the
Yeah.
peace instead of being who you really are.
Mm.
And I've kind of picked it up in my own personal relationships with, people who are close to me and seeing, are they doing these things because they care about me, because they love me? Or are they doing these things because they think that they have to? Is it a performance? Are they
Or
doing
do they
this to people?
prefer you to make them feel comfortable by being a certain way?
Mhm. And that one's been a hard one to deal with. I've noticed different tactics by different people. Some people are very overt with it, and other people are much more sly and cunning to kind of
Mm,
force you into a certain archetype
sure.
instead of allowing you to be who you really are. And they'll do it with things like weird looks or like just snarky little or underhanded comment or something. Oh, I'm just joking with you, or they
Mm,
won't. One of the things I find interesting is like if you're trying to be kind of playful and the other people won't engage in the play with you. And
right.
it's almost like they make you feel, oh, well, you're just being childish. So
Mm,
it's an interesting dynamic for different people and the way that they show up in their relationships. But I would say probably 99% of people often show up with some sort of mask. It's
mm,
because they were told to be a certain way or to act a certain way. And look at, neurodivergence now, how often we have to mask. I didn't realize that for many, many years, I was the one masking, and I still catch myself doing it.
yeah.
Got to be careful.
Yeah, I did it for a long time in my family, and I was thinking about the dynamic of what I sought, what I changed myself for, and where I'm at today. And with my dad, I wanted, because he's a non-emotional. I wanted him to express some emotion with me through, of course, praise and approval. Everybody wants praise and approval. Um, my, I don't know. Well, I have to think about what I wanted for my mom. My brother has this easy time with people. He's always been popular. He was the president of his class in high school. He just naturally meets people and gets invited to do super cool things. How my brother is. And I wanted to be in that light. And so as I was exploring who I am and uncovering all these elements, I physically felt myself change in his presence.
Mm,
I felt the switch turn on and the costume come up, and it was very different.
mm,
And that was a crazy moment. That was a crazy moment because then I find myself like, okay, well, so I don't want to be that in that space. I need to be in my authentic self. And I got quiet for a while. And then somebody noticed I wasn't talking. And I had to find my voice in that conversation
mm.
because what I had to say was not what I would have said before. It was really interesting.
Oh,
Yeah, I remember we were sitting at a restaurant when it happened, and I realized I was leaning forward and I was holding my breath to see if he was going to be okay with what I was saying. And then I went, "What are you doing? I
mm,
don't need his approval. He doesn't even live in the country. You don't talk to him. Why do you need his approval?" So, yeah.
mm,
Yeah, I was trying to be in, the spotlight because I also perceived that my parents put him above me because he just naturally is first chair in the band and he got straight A's and he was president of the student council and he was, so he had all of the external vanity things that they value. And I wasn't there. Yeah.
yeah.
So,
And that's such an interesting place to be
mm,
because especially when it's parents and you feel like you don't quite measure up to what they had hoped you would be.
right.
whatever that looks like. Um, and especially then when you have siblings who seem to measure up very well,
Yeah,
that
easy.
becomes a point of tension or resentment if it's not addressed,
Yeah,
and you going through that and saying, what are you doing? Why do you need his approval? You don't. That makes a lot of difference,
yeah, yeah.
I see a lot of that in my own relationships, but also in other people's relationships with other people, just
Sure.
how much performance and needing to be accepted and all of that is so deeply ingrained in the familial structure. And it almost feels kind of toxic, this idea of
Mm,
needing to be accepted feels toxic. I understand where it comes from. At one point we would not have been able to survive in the wilderness on our own. So, we had
right.
to have the acceptance of our tribe. But, you know, it's very different now. The world is
Yeah,
very different now. It's good to have, that bond with family, but sometimes family isn't blood.
right. Very true.
You
Very
know.
true. Yeah. So let's roll this up to maybe some action items for people that have listened in on this. So first of all, choice.
Mm,
You're only trapped in a mindset or a limitation that you agree to. If you agree that there are infinite number of opportunities, or at the very least to baby step your way through, take a look out in your front yard and notice how many great blades of grass there are. Okay. If you can only see a 4x4 square of blades of grass, whereas before you saw 1x1 square, that's a great step in the right direction. So give yourself the allowance for open a little and a little more and a little more. And know that you are making a choice and a decision in every situation. And that your choice you make may be based on limitations, perceived limitations coming from family, education, institutions, religion, things along those lines. And that you can begin to expand that opportunity. Something
yeah.
closer to thriving and abundant.
And if you're like me and you don't have any grass, just count the bricks in the cobblestone or the specks in the concrete.
Right. There you go. There you go. Oh, shoot.
Oh, that's great
Um,
advice, though.
okay. Mind trap that you have to be a certain way, that you have to work hard, conform, and fit into a mold. What do we do about that?
Mm. Mm. I only have bits and pieces of that, honestly, because I'm still working through it myself. The first part of it is an awareness of it, being willing to look at this aspects of ourselves that are still trying to show up or trying to perform, whether
Mm,
it's for people pleasing or because you genuinely want to help and just are naturally a self-sacrificing kind of person, or
right.
whether it's because you're craving that acceptance that half the time you're probably not actually going to get the way you want it anyway. So,
Right.
just being willing to not be attached to that outcome, being
Mm,
aware of it and being detached from it.
yeah.
Okay, yes, I want people to show up this way in my life, or I want people to be able to hear me or acknowledge me when I speak my truth in this certain way. I cannot then hinge my entire existence on waiting for their approval. I have to be willing to just be who I am. And people will either catch up or they won't. And that's not
Yeah.
really something I could be responsible for anyway. You
Mm,
know, I'm not responsible for anyone's journey. So having the self-awareness that there are things within you that are mind traps, that are limitations of beliefs, being able to acknowledge that some of them aren't yours and you can
yeah.
let them go,
Right.
and giving yourself grace for that, and then being open to the awareness that other people are dealing with the same things.
They are. The book I might recommend for people is The Courage to be Disliked.
Such a great
And
book.
fantastic book. And also, I would take a look over the next, say, 3 to 5 days on everything you say yes to and evaluate why you say yes to it.
Mm,
If you say, I truly, honestly love to do this thing and it feeds my soul, go and do it. If the yes is, oh, I really don't want to do this. Why am I doing this? Then why are you doing it?
mhm.
Who are you trying to please? What is it you're trying to placate? Are you trying to be the good girl? Are you trying to, make someone else happy who's
Yeah.
probably never happy or seldom happy? Why are you saying yes? And is another choice going to be a better one
Mhm.
for you? Hmm. I would also make sure you are evaluating your decisions day to day, your schedule, your people, you're around, the things that you do. Are you engaged in those out of fear, control, coercion, and manipulation,
Mm. Obligation.
obligation, obey your parents?
Mhm.
How many times do we hear that? Children should be seen and not heard.
Yeah, that's a big one.
These are programs of control meant to shrink you, make you smaller, make you acquiesce, comply, and do what they want you to do.
Mhm.
If anybody is hearing this and thinks that psychological manipulation is not a thing, you need to look at the headlines.
Yeah, just turn on the television. That's all you need to do. Turn on the
Yes.
radio. My
Yep.
goodness, I was sitting in a salon a couple of weeks ago and just happened to hear the radio playing and some of the things that they were talking and it was just out out obvious in the open that they were being manipulative and trying to
Yes.
fearmonger people and it was just absurd.
Yes.
And it
Yeah.
shows up in everything. It shows up in the music, in the movies, in the news, and like you said, in the headlines, the tabloids, whatever. It's all designed to grab your attention and put it on falsities, on lies, on mistruths. It's trying to pull your power away from you, demean you, diminish your light, and make you so insignificant and small in your own mind that you'll never believe that you can change the world.
And as soon as you are triggered into fear, you need to stop
Mhm.
because fear is false evidence appearing real. There is a program running under the subconscious. And if they're using fear tactics, fear words, shame words, they're attempting to manipulate you into a response that they want from you.
Yep.
So I will express caution because, again, you have choice.
Mhm.
2020, 2021 were master classes in that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Many people were persecuted for making the wrong choice, and now
right.
many people are wishing they would have made that choice.
Yes. And lots of
Used
people
to be
made the
differently.
choice out of a perceived fear of loss or a perceived fear of being admonished
Mhm.
or outside of their peer group or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and
Or even losing their job,
mm, yeah, yeah.
unfortunate.
So anybody who's trying to manipulate you through fear, you need to be cautious of.
Mhm.
I had someone try to manipulate my position through shame in a Facebook conversation yesterday, and I grinned because I recognized it as shame. She was attempting to shame me into not continuing the discussion because her argument had fizzled out. I provided facts and evidence. Her argument had fizzled, and so she moved in rather than saying agree to disagree or everybody has their opinion or whatever. She tried to move into shame to get me to back off and shrink. I don't go there now.
And the tactics are so ingrained in us because that's how we were raised. She
Yep.
probably didn't even realize she was doing that.
Nope. Yeah.
It's amazing how powerful and easily deceived the mind is.
Yeah. Until it isn't.
Yeah, well, and realizing that we literally have such a profound power within the power of the mind to be able to affect our reality one way or the other, whether you're thinking positive thoughts or negative thoughts, either way, you're going to
Mhm.
start seeing that come to fruition in your life.
Yeah.
And if we, I think sometimes we miss that. We get
Yeah.
so bogged down in our little world about all of our little problems that we're really just creating more problems on a loop for ourselves.
Right. Uh,
We need to
yep.
stop. To
Like the
stop.
movie Groundhog Day.
Yes, again and
Mhm.
again.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Awesome. I love this conversation.
Likewise.
Next steps for people. Our Firelight Alchemy Circle is open. We are in foundations. We just went through a series on self-acceptance, self-expression, getting to know yourself. That is all available inside the circle, as is I'll be loading in the alchemist healer side of things here shortly. So the first modules are recorded but not uploaded yet. And we have we're going to start into the laws of the universe.
Yes,
Talk about
today.
empowerment.
Uh-huh, I'm ready.
Yay. I'm excited for it. All right,
Yeah.
so we're going to jump over there into the Firelight Alchemy Circle. If you guys would like to join, it's just $20 a month, and there's already tons of information in there, and we will continue to add tons of amazing information.
Yes.
So come on
Come
in.
join us.
Yes, join because you know what? It's for you.
Yeah.
It's for your growth. It's for your awareness. And we'll see you inside the circle.